Hi, everyone. My name is Uche Maple, and welcome to the Women Who Lead Network. And we talk about here everything dealing with leadership, entrepreneurship, and living a purpose driven life. Now, this is episode 4, where we're going to be talking about why correcting people without understanding them always backfires. This is part of the series, How to Win and Influence as a Leader Without Guidance, right? Okay, so those of you who don't know me, I have spent my career 22 years in the aerospace and defense industry as an engineer, and then worked my way up to project manager, to program manager, and systems engineer. I've done a multitude of things. And now I am a full-time entrepreneur where my company, we provide leadership and development training specifically for people in engineering, in aerospace and defense sector. Anyone who knows that they want to be a leader in their company, we provide training for that. Okay. And when you go into the description, you're going to see where you can get access to your LinkedIn, how to update the LinkedIn playbook. And if you need any type of support in your career journey. Okay. But today we're talking about why correcting people without understanding them always backfires, right? So I often tell people because, being in the industry for 22 years, you get to see a lot of things, you get to make a lot of mistakes, and you get to have a lot of wins, right? And there was a time in my leadership journey where I believed that correcting people whenever they made a mistake without understanding why or something that they did was the right path. And this is what it looked like. If something was off, I will address it. If performance slipped, I'll step in. Or if expectations wasn't met, I corrected the behavior. What I didn't realize was this, is that correction without understanding doesn't create growth. It actually creates more distance between you and that person, or you and your team, or whoever you're working with. And I was unknowingly creating more of it than what I intended. So I'm going to talk about 3 things that I did in on what it looked like with correction, and how I moved from correcting people to actually understanding. Okay. So the first point was that I would address behavior without understanding the context of it. I will focus on what was happening without asking why it was happening. So, it could be anything where if someone was just late on a delivery, or if someone, was late to a meeting, I would focus on what was happening versus like asking questions. And I would see like missed deadlines, incomplete work disengagement. So I was correcting the outcome and not really addressing the symptom. And what I learned is that that behavior is often a sign, not a problem in itself, right? So when something like that is happening, I was seeing the end result and not really trying to understand what was the root cause. And as a leader, when we skip the understanding part, the correction often feels like judgment. And no one wants to feel judged, because I know that you can relate to this. When leaders, as a leader, when we skip the understanding part and go right into correction, it feels like we're judging them. And when people feel judged, they stop being honest. And when they stop being honest, they're really not invested in the work that they are doing. They're just doing it. And we want people engaged. So that's the first thing that I realized. The second point was that assumptions quietly undermine trust. Do not make assumptions. I mean, as engineers, we have to make assumptions for things that we're doing, but when it comes to people, we are always more than likely off. Without realizing, I would fill gaps with my own assumptions, right? I assume lack of effort, or lack of perseverance, or I assume that people should know better, like they've been doing this for a while. But assumptions, in retrospect, really was it shuts down the curiosity part of why things were happening. So instead of me asking questions, I was delivering conclusions. Instead of listening, I was moving straight into instruction. And in that moment, as a leader, right, we stop listening. When we stop listening, the influence weakens. because people didn't like, man, you can't talk to her. You can't talk to him. They don't like to listen. And we know that as a leader, we need to have a listening spirit. So trust isn't lost in big confrontations. It's often lost when people are misunderstood. So that's the third thing that you should not do, which is don't make assumptions, man. Ask questions. The third point is that when you are understanding change the outcome of correction. So what does that mean? That means that when I begin to understand and begin to listen, it changed how I was communicating with people on things that were happening. So everything shifted when I slowed down and I just started with a listening heart. Yeah. So I will begin to ask questions. What's getting in the way? What am I not seeing that you need to inform me of? What support do you need that I'm missing? What assumptions should I not be making? And then the correction also now becomes collaborative instead of being corrective. You know, the conversations became safer. People were more engaged. They were actually able to tell me the truth without fearing that it was going to cost them something. And then the growth became possible. Understanding didn't remove accountability. It made accountability more effective. I'm going to say that again. Understanding didn't remove accountability. It made accountability more effective. So here's what I know. When you correct people without understanding, it's not leadership. As a leader, when we seek to understand first, the correction lands with clarity instead of resistance, because now we can actually address that challenge. So, for example, when you know that someone is, I'm just going to say for those of us who have been working in the industry 25 plus years and our parents are still alive. Right now, a lot of us are helping our parents out in terms of health, making sure about their well-being. And oftentimes, right, you may have to leave work or you're doing something where you got to go take care of a parent and then, work may be late, right? But understanding that, right? So when having conversation with them, it looked like this. Hey, Brenda, I noticed that you were able to complete the assignment even though it was late. And I know that you were, taking care of your mom or your dad, and you was dealing with that. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for delivering it when you could, because I know you have a lot on your plate, and I definitely appreciate that. And, next time, let us know so that we can see what we can do to help out. And that makes a huge difference, because when people don't change when they feel judged, that means they won't embrace it. They change when they feel understood. So that means that they'll communicate more.